Cameron.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Caitlin.
And this is the Watching You Watch podcast.
Anime edition.
Woo!
Yay! So yeah, this is the Watching You Watch podcast where we that was appropriate. Yeah, no, I like it. where we watch TV shows with the special theme that some of us, namely in this one, Zach and I, have seen the show before, and in this one, Attack on Titan. And some of us, namely Caitlin,
Only
have
Caitlin.
not.
Nope. She's the last one.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, if you've been following along with us, we are in the second half of Attack on Titan, and it's really good.
Yep.
This is one of my favorite segments of the show. And I mean, okay, so everything before this was good, but when I was first watching this is the part where it just like cemented for me. I was like, yes, I'm addicted now. So the segment of episodes we're watching this time, it begins with the first scouting mission for our new cadets who have joined the scouts, and it ends with them capturing the female Titan in the forest. And we get a cliffhanger. Oh, yes. Caitlin referred to it as the Ab-ette.
Ab-ette.
Yes, because girl plus abs.
Yep. Ab-ette.
So, Ab-ette.
Perfect.
Yep. So,
Sold.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, why don't you recap those episodes for you? What were your highlights of these episodes?
All right, so we have our scout regiment, and we had already seen the layout of their mission, but this is them actually executing it, and it's crazy. Basically, they are super spread out, and every time they encounter a Titan, they shoot off different colors of smoke to signal to the rest of the group, and they just keep redirecting, and the whole point is just to keep pushing forward. And everything seems to be going really smoothly for a while, and then all of a sudden, one of the spotting regions basically gets completely wiped out. But, of course, they're so spread out that it's really hard to get the word that that's happened. So most of them are still pushing ahead. And all of a sudden, we kind of hang out with Armin for a while. And we see that there's this weird female Titan, charging him. And she takes down the other two guys that were in his group, and he's freaking out, of course. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. And then she literally just takes off his hood, looks him in the face, and leaves. And it's like...
You're like, what?
What?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So great.
So he's like, what? I'm not dead? Oh my gosh!
It should be worth pointing out here, too, that when we were watching this, there was a little bit of a cliffhanger here between episodes. Oh, yeah. And, Caitlin literally, got up and it was like, what the heck?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
She
right
had
before the
emotion
female
down.
Titan steps on Armin. That was the cutoff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made it look like that was gonna happen. It's like,
Yeah.
She's like, what is going on?
Yeah, I was freaking out the whole time. But see, these 3 episodes, they were so seamless in their transition that it felt like one episode.
It's true.
And also I was begging them to skip the credits because I just had to keep going.
Yep.
So we have Armin, and he's all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, I need to let other people know. I can't believe I'm still alive. So then he and Raina and John get up together, and they all 3 try and take down this female Titan, AKA Ab-ette, again. And, oh my gosh, I thought Raina was going to die because, as we know from the last one, I predicted he was going to die. And, I called it. I was freaking out.
Yeah, that was her first word. She was just like, I called it.
I was like, Raina's dead. I can't believe he's dead. But then all of a sudden, boom, he cuts himself out of the hand of Ab-ette. And we're like, yay, he's still alive. And John's like, oh my gosh, he's so badass. And,
Yeah.
so that was, the layout of that. But basically, they get away, except they're down to horses. And so they're stranded out in the open, and Ab-ette keeps on running. And, it's also important to point out that Armin tried to distract her for a second by yelling basically random stuff about Eren being wiped out in the first group.
Right, being dead.
And so he tried to throw her off, and we clearly in that scene recognize that she's out to get Eren.
Yep.
Because she immediately turned around, but then it was one of those things where he wasn't quite sure if she fell for it, and she didn't. So, but we at least knew at this point she's after Eren, definitely. So anyway, Jean, Raina, and Armin are stranded, and then they're whistling to get another horse, at least, because Armin can at least be carried. And then all of a sudden, Krista responds to their distress signal, and they're all like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna marry this woman," especially Ryan. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that scene.
It was definitely great. And it was like a little bit of lighthearted stuff, which was definitely needed. So anyway, then after this point, everybody sort of gets back into formation and they reach this tree line, and only the center squad, who has like Aaron and the main Levi squad, goes through the center of the woods, and everybody else peels off to the side, and then most of them have to dismount and get into the trees, and they're told, like, don't let any Titans into the trees. And at this point, we see that, like, they don't know what the plan is anymore. They've gone completely off track, and, like, nobody knows what's going on.
Right. They were even told different locations for Aaron.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, like, everyone's confused, completely in the dark, and including Levi and his group, which was, like, the real kicker. So, then the female charges up to this main group, and she's basically almost caught up to them at this point. And the backup squad tries to keep swinging in with their ODM gear, but she's decimating all of them. And we have Levi's group just continuing to charge on through. And then we have this big moment where Aaron is like really frustrated, and he wants to just turn into a Titan to take her down because he's seeing all the death, but they're telling him to, trust them. And so then we get this big flashback in the third episode of like how that trust was formed. And so it had to deal with Hanji trying to get Aaron to change so she could study him, and at first it didn't work. And then all of a sudden he was reaching for a spoon after like biting himself, and it didn't work at all. And then all of a sudden he like partially changed, kind of like with the cannonball scene. And then they all freak out and are ready to kill him. And then, of course, except for Hanji, because she's like, oh my gosh, I want to touch it.
In the most like Hanji way possible.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, it's hot. I love science.
Yes, it was great. And so Levi is trying to calm all of them down because they just kind of want to kill Aaron. And he recognizes at this point how fragile their relationship was. But then at the end of that scene, they figure out that Aaron not only needs to hurt himself, but he needs a very set goal. And in this case, the goal was just reaching for a spoon. But because he had already hurt himself and he was like, weakened and whatever, that's what happened. But then the rest of the Levi squad all bite their hand and they realize how painful that is. And basically that's the trust that was formed. And so then we flash forward again and they're all saying, you got to trust me, Aaron. And he's like, okay, I'm with you. And so they charge ahead. And all of a sudden they come into this line with Ervin's main group. And they have all these cannons with, like, harpoons, basically, that they launch into the female Titan. She's completely trapped, and they realize that this was the plan all along, even though they weren't told.
Yep. Boom. Episode end.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That was a lot, but that's what happened.
It's so complicated and so dense, and, like, I love it. It's all good.
And it's great, because not even all of it is explained. They do, like, tactful flashes to different things.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
It was very well done.
Yes. So why don't we jump right into our recap questions here?
Okay.
So, in the beginning of the episode, you saw them in that formation.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on it? What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses?
Okay, strength is like that they have kind of this succession of like who sees a Titan and where, and then the signals that they send off let the rest of the group know, and so they can kind of change direction as a group. But it also, like, keeps the key members in the center most protected so that the Titans have to come all the way through these different layers in order to get to the center group. And by that point, they should have had plenty of notice, so the goal is to protect that main group. So that's definitely a strength because, like, they can be very aware of what's going on. But the weakness, which kind of, like, goes along with the strength, is yes, they're spread out, and so they can see what's going on, but they're spread out. So it's really easy for the Titans, if they come in on one section, they can just wipe it out. And we saw that with the one spotting squad because they just got ambushed and there wasn't enough time and there wasn't enough people. So they were just taken out.
I mean, it's the best option they have because, I mean, they're on foot. They don't have the advantage of having buildings around to latch onto with their ODM gear. So, like, they're already at a disadvantage that way, and they're making the best of what they got. And it seems to work.
And
Yeah.
arguably it worked until they met a really abnormal Titan.
Right. I mean, the formation sticks together.
It does.
They all make it to that forest at the end there. And
Right.
That's a feat in and of itself, just considering how spread apart they are. Like, every time you see those flares go up, you just see how widespread they are. And that's not even, like, the full extent of the formation. Like, you just that little section that you're able to see.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind when I see it. Just the scale of that and how they're able to coordinate.
Like, it was definitely brilliant. And I think that its strength sort of, like, outplayed the weakness of it. Because it was the best that they could do. And it worked. You're right. So it was intense though.
Yeah.
So in this episode, you see a lot of the cadets that we've been with for a while now really come into their own. People like Jean and Reiner and Armin and all of them, and they're no longer just these cadets that we saw at a training camp. They're full-fledged members of the military in the Scouts. So I was wondering, like, which Scouts maturity were you most impressed with? You know, whose growth were you most impressed with from that original group of people?
I would have to say Jean.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, like, he's still arrogant and annoying sometimes. But at the same time, like, he did say, you know, I'm still looking out for number one. But he also recognized the importance of the mission. And so, like, at first I was really nervous when they were waiting for his horse that he was just going to take Reiner's horse and run. Like, I was really scared. And I was like, please don't do that. And he didn't. Like, it was, I don't know. It's hard to say, like, that's a big moment that he didn't betray his friends. But, like, at the same time.
And yet he remembers Marco in, like, you know, like the funeral pyre there. And it's just, like, really sad. And yet he realizes that there's consequences, you know, to his actions, and you can't think about number one all the time. And
and then when they're on the tree line and he's really frustrated because he doesn't know what's going on, he, like, talks as if he's gonna mutiny, and Armin's like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, don't worry, I'm just talking. Like, but the fact that he was just talking, like, you know, so I'm not saying he's fully matured, but the fact that he's, like, recognizing his place, I think that was
actually kind of great, because his friends, like, are sort of like, wait, John can be different?
Yeah.
What?
So even Armin, the super character, was like, wait, John's being different?
What's going on?
Well, for me, the answer to this question probably would be Krista.
Well, yeah, but...
I mean, okay, this is the thing I love about Krista. No matter, like... what happens, like, Krista is, like, there, and she's, like, gonna be helpful. So, like, you know, Sasha's been running all day, she's exhausted, she's hungry, and what happens? Krista shows up with a jug of water and some bread.
This is true.
But
you also said
growth?
who matured the most.
She hasn't changed at all,
but
despite the crazy situation.
Except she's taken that simple thing and turned it into her being, like, very capable on the outside of that. She's able to, you know, not only avoid Titans, coordinate with the formation.
She's like, I got your horses.
She saves the horses. And she has both horses. She is taking herself and two horses around and coordinating herself through all of this.
She comes in and she's, like, crying. She's like, I'm so glad you guys are okay.
She has, like, a Moe shield, and she's just, like, deflecting all the Titans with it.
Yeah, no, like, I agree. She's awesome, believe me. But I think that she's just a bigger version of herself, not necessarily, like, growing.
She's a more capable version of herself.
Yeah,
we'll go with
but
that.
it is very nice to see that a character can stay true to themselves in such a crap situation.
That's true.
Agreed.
I feel like that goes for Connie, too, and Sasha.
Well, yeah.
Sasha really hasn't changed. She's still just
she's like, oh my god, there's this baby Titan crawling at me.
Yep.
The crab Titan.
Crab Titan.
Crab babies.
So yeah, that's really great. Why don't we move on here, though?
Okay. So, in the forest, there's just this sort of moment where everyone's, like, freaking out, and Levi just, like, has this moment where he talks to Eren, and it's the moment where he's telling him to, okay, I understand. Do you either trust yourself or do you trust your team? It's okay to choose however you do. But he posed the question to Eren as an open question. What side of that argument do you think Levi on? Would he be the person to rely on himself or to rely on his team?
Because he doesn't say. He says he's unsure. He doesn't know the answer himself.
Oh my gosh. That one's hard because he literally says, like, I still question that, you know?
And you can't question the fact that he's, like, a one-man wrecking ball.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so I feel like at this point, even though we don't have a ton of his history, we know that the team is close-knit enough that I would say he would trust his team. I think he has the personality that he would initially be, like, very Eren-like, like, charge into things and be like, I'm gonna take them all! But, like, and he has, like, the capability to do that, you know? But we even saw, like, back when that one random soldier died and, like, he came back to convince him,
I was just thinking
you know?
of that moment.
And there was Petra and right there with him, and like he could have easily charged on and just ignored the fact that people were dying, you know, but he came back to be with his team and convince them that like it meant something. So I think at this point in the game, he's for his team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's talk about another like big personality in the Scouts. Let's talk about Erwin. And we haven't really seen a lot of him, like, personally in the show. We've seen him, like, leading, but then kind of in the background a little bit. But the big thing we have seen is this whole operation was put together by Erwin. And it was a really chancy gambit to get at something that he might not have been entirely sure existed. I mean, like, before this episode started, we didn't know that the female Titan existed.
Ab-ette.
And yet this whole thing... This whole thing, you're ruining my moment, okay?
Sorry.
This whole thing was like built around it capturing her in the woods. And not only that, but Erwin like sacrificed a lot of his own people to do that. So I just what do you think that says about Erwin and his character?
Well, first of all, they kept saying, oh my gosh, we're off course, you know? So, like, he did not let on at all that they would meet up in the woods. And at first I was like, why wouldn't he just tell them? Because, like, wouldn't that have made it easier? But then, like, my second idea was that, like, did he want them to be absolutely terrified so that the female Titan thought she had the upper hand because she has demonstrated intelligence? Yeah. But, like, regardless, we've seen that Erwin and Levi are close. So the fact that Levi didn't even know kind of scares me a little bit. And, like, it did work, but it was so risky. And so I am kind of scared of Erwin at this point. Like, he's brilliant, but, like, he was willing to risk every single person there to do this.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, he goes in there, and, like, he mentions this, I think, in the last string of episodes that we watched, like, we're going to be doing this, and we're going to have so many new recruits. There's going to be a lot of people who are inexperienced, who are going to be afraid because they've never done this. They've never been out in the wild before on horseback doing this, and yet he pulls this off, and it's really interesting, I think, looking at it. Like, it's kind of one of those, like, great moments of, like, learning about someone's character while not actually seeing them.
Yeah.
And, like... Because you get this sense, like, Erwin, when you see him so calm, cool, and collective, and actually kind of, like, warm, too. You know, he's kind of like, I don't know, like Pixis a little bit that way, you know, where it's like, you immediately see him and he looks like a face that you can trust.
Yeah.
And yet...
That's
like,
the recurring theme.
I know. Well, I mean, like, he plays so fast and loose.
Yeah.
With lives, you know, and it's like... cold and calculating is what comes to mind.
Yeah.
The way that he just, like, all those maneuvers were planned out to get there.
And literally every single person there was like, what are we doing? And everyone wanted to go against what was happening, but no one did. So, like,
even Levi's squad, too.
Yeah, even Levi's squad. So I find that interesting, too, that he, like, did all this without them knowing. And he was also gambling with their trust, you know? Not just with their lives, but with the fact that they would actually keep going the way he planned.
And yet there's a moment where I think they all get it.
Yeah.
And then they realize, but Eren still hadn't quite got it. And they're like, no, like, Eren, you have to trust us because we get it now.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, we understand. This isn't going to work if you don't trust us.
Yeah.
So you're right, he does gamble with his trust. And he's also a man that inspires that trust.
Yeah, so that does, like, that's a positive for his character, but also, like, the fast and loose. I'm very unsure about him now. Like, obviously, military genius at this point.
Yeah.
But I just want to know how much he knows.
Yeah.
Because he definitely
knows crap.
He definitely knows stuff. He kind of reminds me of Armin in that way. Where
Yeah.
he's just able to, like, boom, 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 deduce everything,
Right.
you know, and, like, you know, I don't know, maybe, like, Armin would be, like, a future Erwin.
Erwin, Armin, not much different.
Clearly a coincidence.
Coincidence?
Oh, man. Well, let's move into our weekly wrap-up questions here. Yeah, Zach, why don't you start us off with our typical affair?
With this string of episodes, what one lingering question do you have that you would love to have answered?
Who is controlling Ab-ette?
Oh, wow, there's no hesitation.
Yeah, there is no hesitation, but I also feel like it's the most obvious burning question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a person in there.
It's weird for me when I was first watching the show, like, that realization didn't even occur to me. Like, Armin was just like, oh yeah, there's a person in there, and I'm like, no, there's not.
Yeah, it's like this moment of disbelief. It's like, come on. With anime, only the hero gets the superpower. Come on.
And yeah, it's a burning question indeed. Let's have the Cadet of the Week discussion here, because for the majority of this episode, it's not about Eren at all. And we get to see a lot of the cadets do a lot of different really cool things. So who gets it? Who gets Cadet of the Week?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it could be Jean for pulling it together there. It could be Reiner for slashing his way out of the Titans.
Okay, I'm torn between Reiner and Krista. Like, hardcore. But, you know, he's like, that's my future wife. So maybe a power couple.
Are you saying... Wait... They aren't one people.
Yeah, you have to pick one person. It's like you can't pin the medal on
Krista.
two people. Yay!
Unless it's gonna be like Reinsta or
No, shut you. It's Krista.
It's Krista. No, but seriously, like, I don't want to underplay the fact that, like, the three of them, as in Jean, Reiner, and Armin, would be dead without her.
That's true.
And she was like, I just saved the horses.
This one seems so scared.
Yeah, she was like, he was terrified. Like, you're so cute.
I love that. And like, their reactions to it are so priceless. Like,
Yeah.
Armin's like, my hero. And Jean's like, she's a goddess.
And then Reiner's just like, my future wife.
She's the only one in the series that can make Bishy sparkles.
Yes. Which is funny that Reiner says the comment about being future wife, because he's not the first person to say that.
No.
It's Ymir who was the first one. She was just
Awesome.
like...
Cat
Yeah.
fight. I want to see it.
Okay, who would win that cat fight?
Ymir.
Ymir, hands down.
Yeah. Ymir camp all day long.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Well, okay, so this episode 2 also has some really interesting moments too. They're really dramatic, but also like very triumphant. So top feels, bad feels. Where are we placing this episode? Where were your top feels at?
Okay. All right, I had two, like, top feels. One was when Reiner burst through the hand.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, he's not completely crushed, because that scared the crap out of me. Especially the way they did it. Like, it looked so brutal.
Oh yeah.
But then also when they got to the end of the line and all the harpoons went off, and I was like, oh, thank God, like, there was a reason for this. Yeah, so those would be my two top feels. And then bad feels would... I think I'd have to say, like, what Eren was feeling with all of the people trying to stop the female Titan and just continuously dying like that.
Oh, you mean you felt like you were in Eren's position? Just
Yeah.
like, why? This is senseless.
Like,
the
yeah,
way keep
they
dying.
just kept going and they just kept dying. It was like,
Yeah.
I just felt so bad for him.
Before it seemed a little bit excusable, like that moment where you saw like the one squad get wiped out, and then like the next squad saw it from a distance,
Yeah.
but they weren't quite sure what was going on. They just saw like, oh, look, an abnormal Titan, we better go take care of it.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
didn't know what exactly they were dealing with.
Right.
So sad.
But it
Yeah.
just, like, kept happening, like, over and over and over again. So that was a bad feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those kills were brutal.
They
Ugh,
were.
They were.
And, like, was it worse that she didn't eat them? Like,
I don't know. It just seems so much more violent that
I
she
know,
didn't.
like, the one she was,
It's
like,
weird.
spinning
Yeah,
on
she
her...
spun it and then just threw them.
Oh, my gosh.
Or like there's a couple that she just like grabbed the cables of their ODM gear and just like slammed them into the ground,
Yep.
or crushed them in her hand, or kicked them, or squashed them under her foot. Like she was just, it's just
It was brutal.
Yeah.
Tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, how screwed do you think humanity is? 1 being, hooray, humanity is saved, and 10 being, they're done.
We were at a 5, right?
5 before, yes.
Yeah.
4.5!
Feel pretty good.
I'm feeling pretty good because, like, yeah, we had some death, and we're probably going to get a more realistic description of our death toll after this episode. But we just captured another Titan.
Right.
And they made it. Like, it was a victory.
It worked.
So
Get to the bottom of these shenanigans.
yeah.
Yeah. So before we close out here, I just want to get a little bit of your predictions maybe for this next chain of episodes that we're going to watch. What do you think's going to happen with this Titan that they capture?
Ooh. I have no idea who's inside that Titan. But, like, I feel like it's somebody who made it out of the walls a long time ago and, like, knows what's going on in the inner circle.
Yeah.
Kind of a Titan hermit.
Yeah,
A
basically.
Titan hermit.
Like, I don't know. Like, I just can't think of who else it would be unless they're trying. Because, like, why as a human would you kill so many people? Like, it doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that. And then, obviously, they're progressing towards the cellar. And so I think we're going to find a lot of our answers there. And I feel like we're going to meet up with Aaron's dad at some point.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see about that.
Okay.
So yeah, this was this chain of episodes. I'm excited by it. It's some of my favorite episodes in the series. I think I said that last time, but it still
Said
is
it every
true.
time.
I mean, but now it's for real.
Yeah.
So if you've been watching along with us and are enjoying this, maybe these episodes are also your favorite. You can connect with us and talk about that. You can find us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Useful NPCs. Maybe you are slash listening to that there.
Mostly listening.
Yes, I guess so. I mean, it's YouTube. You can watch it. I mean, you could watch a still image, I suppose, for the length of this, but that'd be kind of weird. Unless you enjoy that. I
Get
don't
like
know.
a gallery of photos that make you happy and listen to our podcast.
But yeah, you can connect with us there. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, do all that stuff. We all have gaming videos on there too, so you can check those out. You can also connect with us on Twitter. We're at Useful NPCs, and we'd love to hear from you there. And if you are someone who tumbles, if you have a Tumblr,
Tumbles.
you can connect with us
Tumble
there on Tumblr. We're usefuLNPCs.tumblr.com. Zach runs that. He has a lot of fun with that.
Oh man.
Yes. So you can connect with
So
us
much
there.
concept arts for games.
So yeah, and if you have questions for Caitlin, if you've been following along, maybe
Send them.
Yeah, send them to her. Like if you were in Zach or my position, having seen the show before, and you got a good idea for good leading
Yeah.
questions, send them in.
But
We
do
want to
not
hear
tell her
about
that
them.
Snape kills Dumbledore, you monsters.
Or the equivalent of that kind of question in Attack on Titan.
Yeah, don't do
Yeah.
that.
That point where a group rips off Loki's head. No, it's the worst.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, you can connect with us there, and we'd love to hear from you. And I just would like to put another plug in there too for if you are the type of person who has seen Attack on Titan or any show that's just as good as this. I really encourage you to go out and do this sort of thing with a friend who hasn't seen it before. Share it with them, even if they're not a person who likes anime, because that's me a little bit too. I'm not a big anime person. Zach is, and we all come from different backgrounds as far as that goes, our interest level in that, and yet we can enjoy something that's really awesome, and you can enjoy it with your friends
It's
too.
so awesome.
So
And
yeah.
In our binge happy culture, it's good to be able to sit down and sit back at things, because you get this sort of when you eat a lot of food, you just feel sluggish and crappy, and when you binge watch a series, you feel sort of sluggish and crappy. So
That's true.
Take it at a decent pace. This helps them enjoy it even more and gives you a chance to just
Open up and be like,
Yes.
this is why this is great, and now you can see why it's great, and you can talk
That's
about
what
it.
I've been doing all
The
these past
suspense
few
is
weeks.
real.
Yeah, and then you can actually add some suspense in our culture where we need it now.
So yeah. Also, if you are someone who is been following us before with our YouTube channel, we've done Game of Thrones before this. I kind of put a plug in for this every week, but you should go and check that out if you haven't. After we finish this, we're going to be pulling up season 2 of Game of Thrones and continuing with that, can't wait to get back into it. I know Zach has a lot of feels about this.
I have been waiting, and Cameron is just dangling.
I know part of the reason why I'm doing this is because we're planning on doing that recap episode that you might have heard us talk about, where Zach's going to try and tell us everything that happened in season 1 of Game of Thrones.
To see how
But
glorious they
it's
can
been
fail.
like more than like a month since he's seen it, so expect some hijinks there. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Well,
Like that part where Eddard Stark just kills all the Lannisters. I love that part.
well, there. Does that still hurt, Zach?
No, my headcanon is now real because frack reality.
You need to put that on a t-shirt or something. My headcanon is real because frack reality. And it has like a Cylon.
It has a Cylon with Eddard Stark on the other half of its face.
Yes. Or it's like the 6th Cylon, like draping herself over Eddard Stark. And he's got Joffrey's head in his hand.
Yes. Nothing would make
All right,
me
so we
happier.
eventually have to open a store for useful NPCs.
We'll work on it
man.
when people make us fan art.
Well, yeah, thank you for tuning in. And we had a lot of fun with this. I hope you've had a lot of fun listening. You'll have to tune in next time to hear what happens when we follow up with the capture of the female Titan.
Ab-ette.
Oh, Ab-ette. Yep.
All right.
It's
Ab-ette.
going to be great. All right, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
That was weird. Say bye. Say bye.
Bye!
Do it now!
Do it. That was wrong.
I thought we were going to say bye together.
No, we never say bye together.
Bye together.
We were like, I'll catch you next time. And then
I'll
I thought
catch-
you were like, bye!
You want to rope back into this and try and take this again?
No, it's too late. Okay, bye.
That was such a fail. All right,
We're still going. Make it stop.
hold on.
How do you stop a podcast?
I don't know.
Still going.
Somebody stop it. Somebody make it stop.
Save us, Drogo. Why?
So we just hit the button.
俺が俺じゃないって